for this episode of Mr. Nailsin's Wednesday Comics, we just have one, and that being Goodyng, the Polymath. Written by Mike Barron with art by Will Conrad. And got this cover because it sold out pretty quick. But this was kind of cool. You got this robot and everything, but this does not take place within the book. So it's rather unfortunate that it didn't. Have been rather left wanting with the Ripperverse titles. The Isom books I wasn't all that wowed by. Alpha Core is easily the best that they did. Yaira, a step up from the Isom books, but kind of the same thing. This one at least does give you a full introduction to the character. I mean, it's basically his life from childhood into adulthood into this super genius that he becomes. I guess the take on it would be kind of like if Reed Richards never became Mr. Fantastic, he'd still be this super genius type guy. There's a little bit of Doc Savage type things here in that he trains himself to fight and all that. But ultimately, it's more about him to a certain, overall, but there's already a main villain that's introduced, and the two of them, their lives sort of mirror one another. So there's a story structure here, and in their pathways that they go from childhood into adulthood, and one becoming the hero here, and the other one becoming a dastardly villain. Who actually gets because once again with the names, they're all very odd in Ripperverse. So, it's Isom, which of course I understood is his Eric July's grandfather, I believe, or great grandfather, I can't remember. And then Yaira, and then Goodyng. But here in the story, there is a villain who does have a code name, Splatterpuss. And that's kind of the highlight of it. It's mentioned. It's not really who I thought it would. Maybe they'll make use of it to more benefit and later stories. But there is, that's the high points of there's a structure to it and a plot, but it's basically just telling you who the guy is, where he came from, and then it just sort of ends. Better than Isom, I would say overall, but that's about it. Alpha Core, I think, in my opinion, remains the better title of the batch here. I'll flip through some of it. I'm not going to show everything, but the art is adequate, as some of this obvious 3D models and stuff used, but for the most part, adequate to sometimes getting a little flat and stale. But then again, there's suggestions of action. You do see some of that, some missions and whatnot throughout the story, but really not a whole lot of action. And then it seems to be building up to something, and there's an encounter, and then it's just quickly over, and then that's it. It's done. So left with, well, that's it. And some of the elements, it drags on a little long in the overall story of Goodyng and whatnot, and the different stages of his life. It's the kind of thing that in the old days of comics, you'd probably 1 or 2 pages you'd be good, and then you'd get into the action. I mean, it's posits itself as superhero action or science fiction, I guess, in this case. But no, not really, because the villain, he's pretty much like a comic book villain with an outfit and everything. So, you would expect some sort of conflict, but it's there, but it's rather brief. And a lot of the trappings is the overall strange alternate world that it is with Republic of Texas and stuff like that. But okay, but it's just sort of glancing at a concept here and there, whereas the heart of the story is barely there. And it's just, well, he grew up in this town. He was very smart, and he excels because of his genius, and this sort of thing. Whereas the villain was not on par intellectually, but still manages to become a superpowered villain. Albeit rather accidentally. but he does grow into becoming Splatterpuss. If it was things like that where it just went off the wall, wild stuff like that, you'd probably have a more fun title. Mike Barron's a veteran writer. He's pretty solid, but I don't know. It seems like there just wasn't enough material here. Yeah, I didn't enjoy it all that much, and feel bad about it, but can't lie. I just hopefully it'll improve as it goes. But right now, as far as Ripperverse goes, in my humble, ultimately meaningless opinion, it's that Alpha Core was the best of the batch, and that's the one to shoot for, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, there we go for Goodyng. Good luck in the future. There's always chances for improvement. Ripperverse is doing well overall as far as selling books, so they've got time, but hopefully they improve. But I'm kind of running out of interest in it with some of this delivery. So, well, hopefully I hope for the best and all that, and we'll see what happens to a point, and then, well, probably have to move on. So anyway, there we go with Goodyng. Don't know if they'll introduce a villain named Badying. Probably not. But anyway, there we go. Rather a short one. Had plans for another Goblin video, but I think I'll keep that unto itself at some point. So anyway, this is what I read. I read Goodyng as far as comics go for the Mr. Nailsin's Wednesday Comics show, and we'll do another one next week.